I like that sound effect. All right. There's a new job performance report out from Mayor de Blasio, and let's just say it's mixed. New Yorkers, they're weighing in, and there is definitely a divide here depending on the racial makeup of the respondent. 70% of black voters, they approve of the job that the mayor is doing. But get this, less than half that number, 34% of white voters, say he is doing a good job. Little less than half of Hispanics, 47%, approve of his work. And overall, he's under the 50% mark of New Yorkers who say that he's doing good so far. I'm going to get to other numbers in a second, but what do you think about that? I mean, first of all, the gap. It is New York. It's not like whatever. Less than 35% of whites?
Yeah, look, you know, he hasn't had the first year and a half now of his time since he was elected. Hasn't been the best for him. I think that he has focused on there's a lot of questions as to, you know, his desire to ban horse carriages and where that falls on sort of the priority list of most New Yorkers. I think that, you know, racial tensions in New York, I do not think are a product of Bill de Blasio. I think that he's the mayor and the situation as it exists. And I think, frankly...
And you argue, Dominic, he's kept the lid on...
Yeah, I mean, think about this for a second. So his numbers on police relations are low, no question about it. His numbers, though, on actually dealing with race relations in the city are a plurality positive. And so you have to think about the way Bill de Blasio has handled the situation. And I would argue, look, let's imagine Rudy Giuliani was the mayor for a second. Oh. Imagine what the situation would be now. I think he has taken a very nuanced and difficult, but nuanced approach to what's happening now, particularly after Staten Island. And I think that if you look at the way in which they handled the protests in New York City, I do think, and I'm not the first one to run to his defense, I do think he's actually handled this quite well. That doesn't say that he's handled everything else in New York City. I think what's going on at the prison, at Rikers, which I think we'll talk about, is another issue. Horse carriage is another issue, and I think that he's looking overtly sort of political at all times when New Yorkers are sort of looking for a rise above politics that they're used to.
And to put in context, this surprised me at least, Andrew, Bloomberg had a lower approval rating than de Blasio around this same time. His approval rating sat around 41%. And it's easy to say here, he had to cool down tensions in here. He had to acknowledge problems. But I get the impression from many people, and I think it's borne out in that poll, he didn't have to go as far. He could have acknowledged the problem, but there were a lot of people thought that he threw the police under the bus as an institution more than he had to. You buy that or no?
The only people I hear saying that are the police unions, and they have an agenda, to my friends in the police unions. 70%, the poll you just did, of blacks approve. As I've been telling you guys.
Low, don't you think, though, in the black community?
No, I don't. Let me just say this. Look at Ferguson, Missouri. Look at New York City. Rioting in Ferguson, no rioting in New York. It may not please the tax base, it may not please the white community, but Bill de Blasio, what was said about Bill Clinton? Bill Clinton was considered the first black president, right? Yeah. Bill de Blasio is like a black mayor of New York City. There's no other way to put it. Right. And he thinks of himself that way. I can say this because I've had private conversations with him. His wife is African American. If not for what Bill de Blasio has been saying, New York City may have seen violence, Richard. It's that simple.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't, and I think that there's always hits on Rudy Giuliani. Imagine if Rudy Giuliani had been mayor now.
Just imagine.
I don't remember riots under Rudy Giuliani. I remember law and order.
Wait, you don't remember the daily police protests every day at one police plaza?
I remember the relationship with Al Sharpton was bad.
Officials, and
I don't remember riots.
And he wouldn't meet with black officials unless they kissed his. No.
He wouldn't meet with Al Sharpton.
He wouldn't meet with C. Virginia Fields.
He met with Johnny Youngblood.
Okay, we both know
Calvin Butts.
with Rudy, either you kissed the ring or you got no audience.
Yeah, but there were no riots on the street.
For a time purpose here.
I just want to make, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think de Blasio is complaining about those numbers. I'm sure that his staff would like to see those numbers higher, but those numbers would get him reelected.
Okay. But I'll tell you who he is complaining about, Andrew, to this point. He went over to Police Plaza, did Bill de Blasio here, and from all accounts, I can't even say television, but some of the folks in attendance say he kissed posteriors of the police department, and he blamed the media for it. But can we bring up what Pat Lynch had to say? Now, Pat Lynch sat down one-on-one with Dominic. He's head of the PBA. We all know what Pat's job is. He's to always take up for the police here. But listen to some of the language. He said, de Blasio acts more like the leader of a leaping revolution than a city, okay? And I guess my point is, how fractured is the relationship between the police department and the mayor's office, or is it? This goes on all the time, whether it's labor fights or whatever else. Mike, is this real, or is this just?
Let's
change the calendar. It's the same issue.
Pat Lynch needs to take some responsibility here. The fact is, if you want to talk about the relationship between the mayor and the police department, when you have the head of the PBA making statements like that to the chief executive, the boss, the guy who's supposed to take care of constituents and also be the leader of the police force of every city employee in New York. Pat Lynch has been pretty reckless in this debate, to be honest with you.
I think he's been absolutely right. I think Pat Lynch had a brilliant PR stroke with having officers sign that pledge not to have the mayor not go to their funerals if they're shot. It made the point exactly right. These guys' lives are on the line every day, and he didn't give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not always a Pat Lynch guy, but I think he's handled this just right.
Didn't it just? He's politicizing funerals, didn't it? I mean,
it reminds the public from a PR standpoint what they face every day on the streets.
Where's the NYPD with contracts with the city?
There isn't one.
And Bill, the other question is, what would please you and others? What do you want the mayor to do? You have a third of the city feeling that there's almost no justice for them,
because you're
ready to riot. What would you have a mayor do in this situation?
I don't know that you can say ready to riot. I don't see who's ready to riot, and you have a lot of people that are ginned up by leaders like Mayor de Blasio, by Al Sharpton and others that are organizing protests. They've been peaceful, thank God, and they've been done very well.
You think de Blasio New York has ginned them up?
Oh,
I'll give you two things. I'll give you two things that I think, I don't know if he'd want to take back, but I would suggest to him he didn't have to do. He didn't have to elevate early on, before even the Gardner verdict, and put side by side the police commissioner and Al Sharpton on a dais. And second point, and the other point that I'd have issue is, after the Gardner verdict, he needed to calm temperatures in here. But when he said that he's the mayor of everybody, including the police, when he said that he felt he was worried every night that his son would come home because of possible interactions with the police, I thought that went too far.
He has a black son. I'll let Dominic go on.
But how does that go too far? That's real for many of us. That's something that happens in every black family.
Dominic, but you can't say it as the mayor. That's my problem.
How many guests have you had at this table who have said, I had to have that talk with my son. I'd have that talk with my child.
Why should the mayor have that talk with his son? Has the mayor had any discussion about other issues that are important here? And I agree you have to talk about police relations, absolutely. But does the mayor talk about lack of fathers in households in New York, things that matter, that drive crime
You're
rates?
right about that. You're right about that.
This is on the heel. Look, this is on the heels of several high-profile deaths of unarmed black men, young black men. The mayor of New York has a black son. The mayor of New York didn't set up tens of thousands of people on the street. Tens of thousands of people were so upset, so disturbed, feeling so without breath, and that they took to the streets.
With you,
and they walked. And I mean, every time someone says to me, and I have to be frank here, every time someone says to me that somehow by acknowledging the reality of black families in this country, he's the mayor, and he's a human, and he has a black son, and I think it
Mike, my
just
only point is
appropriate
this,
for him
and
to say the same.
I'll point to exact my only thing, all right? And I disagree with others who say, oh, the mayor. No, the mayor had to do what he did after the verdicts here. He had to, and I expected we were going to have worse reactions after the Gardner verdict, and there's a credit to him. But my only point is, there are times I feel that this mayor feels that he's a public advocate and he's not a mayor.
Exactly.
And when you are in Gracie Mansion, whether you like it or not, you are the person that everybody's looking to for leadership. It doesn't mean that he has to agree with the decision or even articulate that. But sometimes I think he goes too far. And when he does that, sometimes I think that he wants to be both a candidate and a mayor at the same time. And you know, it doesn't work that way. You get the big desk, you have to take the bad parts of coverage.
But what else could he have said?
He didn't need to say what
Okay, but
he
wait,
said.
Richard, so was he just supposed to say, our jury system has spoken, accept it? That was what
he
was
would
he
have
supposed
said
to
that we
say?
have a major problem in this country, that people of color, including people in my family, don't believe that everybody gets the same treatment, from who's rounded up to how they get treated in the prosecutorial process. He should have said everything he did. My only point is, we all sat down and listened to it. Obviously, we can have different takes away. when he went on as long as he did about Dante and not feeling that his son could come home at night because of the police department that he is the head of would allow his son to come home alive that night, to me that was this. And then I said the night that he did it, when he put Sharpton on the same level with the police commissioner early on in the process, he made it clear.
So it would have been fine with any other black leader, just not Sharpton.
I think that has a lot to do with it. I think a lot of people really don't like Sharpton. That's a knee-jerk
They're
reaction.
killing me because I'm going way over on the break here. But we could keep going on this. But I think you're right. To be fair, it's a good reference. All right, now coming up next here, New Yorkers are also sounding off over whether they believe that the state AG's office should have prosecutorial powers over cases involving unarmed civilians. It's going to be interesting what the numbers have to say. Mr. Scheidemann told me firsthand this week that he believes his office is the best equipped. We'll see what New Yorkers say.